It was supposed to be our special trip, the kind you plan months in advance, anniversary just me and her, away from the city's noise. The hotel was nice, the kind that makes you feel like you're staying in someone's fancy apartment. Soft lighting, thick curtains, a view of the skyline that shimmered in the night. I remember the smell of expensive shampoo in her hair, the way her laugh echoed softly in the hotel room when she teased me about losing at cards. That night I finally let myself relax thinking, we're good, we're happy. But I should known better. I should listen to the little signs, those tiny nagging doubts that I brushed off because I wanted to believe in us. I thought she was tired from the trip, maybe a little stressed. She'd been working too much lately, I told myself. But the truth is I was blind. I was stupidly blind. It all fell apart in less than an hour. I'll never forget how I felt that night, walking into the room after dinner. A strange heaviness in my gut I couldn't shake. I'd gone out for some fresh air and coffee, trying to give her space. When I opened the door, my stomach dropped. The sight hit me like a punch. There they were, her and my best friend, lying on the bed, tangled up, their faces uncomfortably close. His hand was on her thigh and her fingers were gripping his shirt like she was trying to cling to him. They weren't just talking, they weren't just friends, they were kissing. I saw the way her lips pressed against his, way too eager, way too hungry. My chest felt like it caved in, the air sucked out of me. I froze, couldn't speak. Couldn't move, just stared. They hadn't seen me yet. I could hear their breathing, ragged and hurried. The scent of her perfume mixed with his cologne, sharp and sickening. The whole scene played in a blur, but the evidence was clear. She'd been cheating all along, right under my nose, while I was out trying to find us a better table at the restaurant. My mind spun. How long? How many times? I'd missed the signs, her disappearing late at night, the broken phone calls she'd tried to hide, the way she'd started avoiding intimacy. I was stupid not to see it. Or maybe I just didn't want to see it. I backed out slowly, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. My hands were sweaty, fists clenched, trembling. I left the room without a word, stomach twisting in knots, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The world around me felt hollow, empty of the trust I'd built over years. All that effort gone in a moment. When I finally got outside, I couldn't breathe. My head was spinning. I kept replaying the scene, trying to find some rational explanation, but there was none. Just her face, her lips pressed against him, the betrayal written in every glance. I wondered how I missed it, how I was so blind that I didn't see she was already gone from me. That night I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in the dark, my mind racing. Every memory, every moment I'd thought I knew her. Was it all a lie? I kept asking myself. How could I have missed the signs? It's like I had a blindfold on and she was just waiting for me to look the other way. Now I can't tell if I was blind or a fool, maybe both, but I do know one thing: this isn't just about her cheating. It's about me realizing I was so caught up in the idea of us that I ignored the truth staring me right in the face. And honestly, I don't think I can ever trust her again. Not the same way anyway. I'm just trying to figure out what's next. Do I confront her? Do I walk away? Or do I turn this pain into something else? I don't have the answers yet, but I do know I'm done being played, done being a fool, and I'm not going down without a fight. The next morning I woke up with a pounding headache and a stomach full of acid. The hotel room looked different now, less like a romantic getaway and more like a crime scene. Every detail felt sharper, more vivid, as if my brain was trying to replay that scene over and over. I kept seeing her face, her lips pressed against his, the way her eyes looked like she was trying to hide something. That's when I realized I needed a plan. A real, solid plan, not just a rage-fueled outburst. I spent a lot of time that morning pretending to be calm, but inside, I was boiling. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How did I miss the signs? The late-night texts she tried to hide, the way she'd flinch when I got too close to her phone, the subtle shifts in her behavior. It was like trying to piece together a puzzle made of glass, fragile, sharp, and incomplete. I knew I had to catch her in the act again, but this time I needed more than just a picture. I needed proof that would cut through her lies, her explanations, her tears if she tried to spin it. I started thinking about ways to set her up, ways to catch her off guard to see if she'd slip up again. First, I went through her phone. That hurt more than I expected. Seeing her messages, her flirtatious emojis, the private conversations she'd hidden from me, God, It was like a dagger twisting in my side. I found some evidence that confirmed she'd been planning this for a while. The worst part, knowing I was right all along but still feeling like a fool for not noticing before. Next, I called my best friend, because I knew I needed allies even if I hated myself. For it, I told him I knew about the affair, that I saw them together. His silence on the line was deafening, but I could hear the guilt in his breathing. I made him promise to meet me later to tell me everything he knew. I wanted the full story, no matter how much it hurt. While I waited, I started setting up my plan for revenge. Nothing reckless, no childish games, just something calculated. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, something that would make her understand I wasn't just some fool she could walk all over. I decided I'd make her see what she lost by giving her a taste of her own medicine. I ordered a small hidden camera, discreet, bullet-shaped. I planned to place it somewhere only she'd go, somewhere she'd think she was alone. The idea was to catch her in another lie, another moment she'd try to hide. I'd record everything, every gesture, every word. And then I'd confront her with the evidence like a judge handing down a verdict. But I knew I couldn't do it alone. I had to be meticulous. I started thinking about how to approach her without making her suspicious, how to get her to slip up again to give me what I needed. I'd talk to her, act normal, and wait for her to make a mistake. When she did, I'd be ready. The worst part, the anticipation. It's this gnawing, hollow feeling inside your chest, like your heart's been hollowed out and replaced with cold steel. I kept telling myself this was for closure, that I deserved the truth. But deep down, I knew I wanted revenge, something sharp, something that would hurt her just as much as she'd hurt me. My mind kept circling back to that moment, her lips on his, her face flushed with secret pleasure. That image stayed with me all day, a tattoo etched into my brain. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again and my fists clenched. I was sick of feeling helpless, of feeling like I was just a pawn in her game. If she thought she could cheat and walk away, she was dead wrong. So I waited, plotting, preparing. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was scared or unsure, but because I wanted her to see that I was serious. That I wasn't just going to roll over and accept being played. I was going to make her regret crossing me. And when the moment came, when I finally had her caught, I would be ready to strike. Her betrayal had opened a door I never wanted to walk through, but now that I was standing on the other side, I realized something. I'd been a fool, but I wasn't going to be one anymore. She would see what she'd lost, and I'd make sure she felt every bit of the fallout. The day of the confrontation, I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. I kept telling myself to stay calm, but inside I was anything but. Every nerve in my body was on high alert, like an animal stalking its prey. I had the camera hidden in her favorite spot, just on the side of the dresser, facing the bed, pointed at the door. The plan was simple. I'd pretend everything was normal, wait for her to slip up, and then catch her red-handed. I didn't sleep the night before. Instead, I kept replaying that scene in my head, the betrayal, the false sense of security I'd carried all these years. I kept looking at my phone, waiting for the inevitable moment when she'd walk through that door, unaware I was recording her every move. She came back from breakfast looking fresh, like she hadn't just cheated on me the night before. She was trying to act normal, but I could see the flicker of something in her eyes, nervousness, maybe guilt. I played it cool, pouring us coffee, asking her about her plans for the day. She responded with fake cheerfulness, but I kept my focus sharp. Then she went to the bathroom. That was my cue. I pressed record, my hand trembling slightly. I was ready. If she slipped up, I'd have her. Until then, I kept pretending to be relaxed, even joking a bit about the weather, trying to keep her off guard. About 10 minutes later, I saw her get up from the bed. She looked around nervously, her hands trembling as she reached for her phone. My stomach twisted. It was now or never. She glanced at the camera, probably thinking she was alone, thinking I wasn't watching. And then she did something I knew she'd regret. She dialed a number and whispered into the phone, "Yeah, I'm alone now. Come over later, we can finally do this." Her voice was husky, full of guilt or maybe excitement. Whatever it was, it cut through me like a knife. That was the confirmation I needed. She'd been planning this again, sneaking around even after I'd found out. I stayed silent, watching her, feeling my fists tighten. I couldn't believe she thought she could keep this up, thought I was too blind or stupid to see what she was doing. With a deep breath, I turned off the camera, feeling both a strange relief and a dark satisfaction. I knew what I had to do next. When she finally came out of the bathroom, I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "We need to talk." Her face paled, her eyes darted nervously. She tried to fake innocence, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I pulled out the evidence, screenshots of her messages, the recording of her talking about meeting someone else, her plans for the night. "You've been lying to me from the start," I told her, voice low and steady. "This isn't just some mistake. You've been cheating on me with my best friend. How long has this been going on?" She stammered, trying to deny it, but her voice cracked. "It's not what it looks like. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything." "No, that's funny, because I have the footage, I have the proof of everything. How could you be so stupid?" I let the words hang in the air, feeling a bitter cold seep into my bones. I saw the shock in her eyes, then the panic. That's when I realized I'd broken her. I told her I was done, that I had a plan to make her see she'd lost everything. And I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. This was just the beginning of my revenge, and I was going to make sure she paid for what she'd done. I handed her the keys to her side of the apartment because she was leaving and she wasn't coming back. As she packed her things, I felt a strange mix of relief and rage. I watched her walk out the door, not even looking back. The apartment felt colder now, emptier than ever. I'd lost her, sure, but I'd gained clarity. No more illusions. No more fooling myself that I could fix this. I sat down on the couch and finally let out a long breath. I knew I'd have to deal with the fallout, her calls, her crying, maybe even her trying to come back. But I also knew this. I was done being the fool she thought I was. I'd taken back control. I stared at the empty doorway, feeling the weight of everything I'd just done. The truth was out now, and I'd be damned if I let her ever do this to me again. The best revenge, walking away with my dignity intact. That's what I was going to do. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog. I didn't sleep much. My mind kept replaying what I'd done and what I'd uncovered. It was a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The house, once full of her presence, now just echoed with silence. I kept going over the footage, the evidence, trying to convince myself I'd done the right thing. But underneath it all, there was this gnawing feeling, like I'd only just started to scratch the surface of her betrayal. I knew she'd try to reach out. I wasn't naive. Her voice messages, her frantic texts, even the crying ones, those came flooding in. I ignored most of them at first, but I knew I had to face her eventually. I had to decide if I was going to let her back in or if I was truly done. And honestly, the thought of forgiving her, it made my stomach turn. One morning, I finally responded. I told her I didn't want to hear from her anymore, that I was done, that I deserved better than someone who'd cheat on me with my best friend. She begged, of course. Said she was confused, that it was a mistake, that she loved me. I just typed back, "You lost that right when you lied and cheated. Stay away." It was hard, but I felt a small weight lift off my shoulders. Still, I wanted to do something more. Something to make her realize the extent of her betrayal and to give her a taste of what she'd lost. That's when I started planning my revenge in earnest. I remembered the little things I'd seen that made my blood boil. The way she'd flirted with him right in front of me. The way she'd lied to my face. I wanted her to feel that same helplessness I'd felt when I saw her cheating. I needed her to understand in some way what she'd thrown away. I decided to set up a little trap. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make her uncomfortable. I contacted a private investigator, hired him to follow her around to see if she really was done, or if she was still sneaking around. I needed confirmation before I made my move. Getting those photos and videos would be my ammunition, my final blow. Meanwhile, I also started preparing a letter. Not just any breakup note, but one that would spell out everything. How I found her, how I saw her kiss my best friend, how she betrayed everything we had. I wanted her to read it, to know she'd lost someone who truly cared, someone who'd been blind but finally saw the truth. One night I sat in my apartment, watching her on the investigator's footage. She was out, laughing with some guy at a bar. I felt my jaw tighten. That was confirmation she hadn't stopped. She was still playing her game even after I had left her. That's when I decided, it's time for the final act. Next, I arranged for her to get the letter along with the proof I'd gathered. I knew she'd probably try to deny everything, cry her way out of it, but I didn't care anymore. I wanted her to see she'd lost her chance. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be caught, to be exposed, to know I wasn't the fool anymore. I also made sure she'd get a set of keys to my place. She'd come to pick up her things, her clothes, her jewelry, whatever she wanted. But she wasn't getting her hands on anything without facing the truth first. She'd see the evidence, read my words, and then decide whether she wanted to keep running or face reality. When I handed her the letter, she looked at me like I was crazy. Her eyes flickered with a mixture of fear, anger, and maybe even regret. She tried to say she loved me, that it was all a mistake, but I just shook my head. "Look at this," I said, pushing the evidence across the table. "You can't deny it anymore. You lied to me, you cheated, and I don't want to be with someone who doesn't respect me enough to tell the truth. Take your things and leave. Don't come back." She looked at the evidence, then at me, her face a mess of emotions. She hesitated, then took the keys. Her hands trembled as she gathered her stuff, and I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and bitterness. This was the end of it, or at least I hoped it was. As she walked out the door, the silence was deafening. I closed the door behind her and finally let out a long breath. The house felt empty again, completely void of her presence. I knew I'd be okay, but it would take time to rebuild what I'd lost. Looking around, I realized something. I'd been a fool, yes, but I was still standing. I still had myself. That was what mattered. I'd survived her betrayal, and now I had the proof, the closure, and the chance to start over. Sometimes the only way to reclaim your dignity is to take decisive action. That's what I did. I let her go, packed up her stuff, and moved forward, knowing I'd never be blind again. The days that followed were quiet, almost too quiet like. The house had absorbed all the noise and chaos I'd thrown at it. I didn't sleep much. My mind kept circling back to her leaving, to the sound of the keys turning in the lock. It was a strange relief, but also an emptiness I couldn't quite shake. I spent most of my time cleaning up, packing her things, boxing up the remnants of the life we'd built. Each item I handled felt like a small victory, like I was reclaiming my space, my mind. But beneath that, there was a nagging voice, something I'd ignored for too long. That voice told me I'd lost something more than just her. I'd lost trust, innocence, hope that I'd found someone who truly cared. Still, I refused to dwell on what I'd lost. Instead, I focused on moving forward. I went out for walks, cleared my head. I started hitting the gym again, lifting heavier weights than I had in months. It helped to channel all that anger, frustration, and heartbreak into something physical. Muscles ached, but the ache was a good kind, a reminder I was still alive, still fighting. One evening, I sat on my balcony, staring out at the city lights flickering. Below, I'd finally finished packing her stuff, everything neatly stacked in the corner. I told myself I'd keep the evidence, proof of her lies, to remind her of what she'd thrown away. But now I was thinking about burning it. Not because I wanted revenge anymore, but because I needed to stop holding on to the pain and let it go. That's when I realized something. I'd been so consumed by what she did to me that I'd forgotten about myself. I'd let her steal my confidence, my sense of worth. But I wasn't going to stay that way. I was going to rebuild, stronger than before. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the letter I'd written, everything I wanted to tell her, all the pain, the anger, the disappointment. I looked at it for a long moment, then tore it in half. Burning the pieces seemed like a good start. I watched the flames curl around the paper, the smoke rising up like a dark cloud. Watching her betrayal go up in smoke was oddly freeing. The next day, I decided I'd cut all ties. No more calls, no more texts. I was done chasing ghosts. I handed over the last her things to a local charity. I didn't want anything that reminded me of her. I wanted a clean slate. I even changed my phone number, blocked her on social media. I had to erase her from my mind, from my life. But I knew I wouldn't forget everything overnight. The trust I'd lost wasn't something I could just replace with a new apartment or a new number. It was a process, a slow rebuild. Still, I felt lighter, like I was finally starting to breathe again. One night I went out with some friends, people I hadn't seen in a while. We went to a small bar, drank beer, laughed, and talked about everything except her. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was reclaiming my life, like I was finally in control again. And that's when it hit me. The anger, the guilt, the heartbreak, none of it defined me. I had made mistakes, sure, but I was still standing, still capable of trusting again, even if it was with caution. I realized I'd been so focused on revenge that I'd forgotten about healing. So here's what I learned. Sometimes, the best revenge is not revenge at all. It's walking away, picking up the pieces, and refusing to let someone else's betrayal break you entirely. It's about reclaiming your happiness, your dignity, your self-worth. I still get angry sometimes, but I don't dwell on it anymore. I let the past be a lesson, not a prison. And I remind myself every day that I'm stronger than the pain she caused. That's what matters now. If you're in a similar situation, here's my advice. Don't stay stuck in the anger. Don't let betrayal define you. Take control, rebuild, and trust again when you're ready. The worst thing you can do is let someone take away your peace. And trust me, your peace is worth fighting for. It's been months since she walked out that door, and I can honestly say I'm in a better place. Still, every now and then I catch myself thinking about what I lost, about all the years I gave her, the trust I thought we shared. It's a sting that never fully goes away, but I've learned to live with it. Not because I've forgiven her necessarily, but because I've chosen to focus on rebuilding myself. One afternoon, I finally made the decision to officially close that chapter. I went to the courthouse, filled out the paperwork, and handed over the keys to the apartment. It felt strange, almost surreal, like I was finally letting go of a ghost that had haunted me for too long. As I walked out of the building, I felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd reclaimed a piece of my life that I'd let her take from me. Before I left, I took a moment in the empty apartment. I looked around at the bare walls and the empty shelves, then I grabbed a pen and wrote one last thing on a piece of paper, just a simple note. You betrayed me, you lost me. I'm better without you. I hope someday you realize what you threw away. I put the note on the counter, then dropped the keys on top of it. It was a small act, but it felt like I was finally closing the door on that part of my life. I turned away and didn't look back. Walking out into the bright sunlight, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. I knew I'd be okay. I knew I'd heal. And surprisingly, I found a strange sense of peace in knowing I'd taken control of my story again. No more hiding, no more pretending I was okay when I was. Just honesty, nothing more, nothing less. I tell this story now because I want anyone reading who's going through something similar to know this. You don't have to accept betrayal, lies, or heartbreak as the end of your story. You can choose to walk away, to rebuild, to come back stronger. Trust is fragile, but it can be rebuilt, first within yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I took back my life one step at a time, and I refused to let her define my future. The pain will fade, but the lessons stay. Always remember, you deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly cares, not a betrayal that tears you apart. So if you're in the middle of your own heartbreak, take it from me. The only way out is through. Face it, learn from it, and then leave it behind. Because no matter how much it hurts, healing is waiting on the other side. And trust me, your peace is worth every step.